Good afternoon. Career Path Intelligence has asked me to moderate this 20 question town hall podcast. It's my absolute pleasure to do so. I'm joined by athlete, entrepreneur, and fellow vegan, Erin DeMarines. Hello, Erin.
Hi,
How
nice
are
to
you
be
doing?
here.
Pleasure to meet you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Really good. How about you?
Great. It's good to chat with you, and I'm looking forward to learning more about you as we go through these 20 questions. So, to start with, what inspired you to become a triathlete, fitness trainer, and entrepreneur?
That's a loaded question. I have been running with my dad, and my mom also runs, but I've been running with my dad since I was about 4. My dad is a like a uh, an avid runner. Like he doesn't usually miss a day, and he can still beat me in a 40-yard dash, and he's 70.
Wow.
So my dad certainly, I feel like, kind of helped me to get on that path. And obviously started running. I did track in high school, gymnastics, cheerleading. And then when I graduated from high school and went to college, I started to get into triathlons, and which just seemed kind of like the natural thing to do. Adventure racing, triathlons. It was what kind of everybody I knew were doing. So I didn't necessarily set out to get into it, but I fell in love with the fact that you could do 3 sports in one day and still walk. So it definitely was an inspiration, just to be amongst all those athletes who were like me, loved at least one of those sports a lot, because I was never naturally good at any of them except for the running. So it was just a challenge, right? To get better at running. I mean, to get better at swimming or biking, because I knew I could handle the run no matter what, because I was always a runner. But as far as the entrepreneurship, I think that was an inspiration for my dad too. He had always had kind of his own thing and his own company. And I think maybe I always envisioned that because I knew whenever I would talk about something like that, he seemed so like, yeah, you should do that. And I think maybe that inspired me. And it was also his grandmother's cookie recipe that started my vegan energy bar, which is why we are here talking about it today. So it was kind of her, she was always into fitness, even she died 1 week shy of 99. And so she inspired him, who inspired me. So I think it definitely runs deep in our family. And my sister was also a triathlete. She was on the triathlon team at University of Colorado for while she was there. So it's I definitely part of our family.
That's
So
wonderful. And what do you most enjoy about those different roles?
um, as far as like the entrepreneurship or
Right.
about the sport,
Being an athlete, being an entrepreneur, being a trainer.
um, which one do I enjoy the most? I mean,
Or what's
I,
your favorite aspects of all of those things?
I mean, I really enjoy the entrepreneurship. I feel like it's like preparing for a race. Like if you're going to be good at it, then you better really dive into it. Like I had been in the pharmaceutical and medical sales world for a little while I still did my energy bars on the side. And it was just a constant struggle for me mentally and probably physically and emotionally. Like I'm out there busting my butt, but it's not my own thing. And I think it really, when COVID hit, like it was a light bulb. I don't have to do that because they laid off everybody in our company. Now I have a chance here to really do my own thing, which is what I've always wanted to do and what I did for a long time. Um, so I think the aspect that I love the most about it is that it's really in my control. Like if I'm going to somehow connect with you, there had to be some mechanism that I channeled to get to you, for you to know who I was, to have this interview. So I know how that happened because we are connected somehow through LinkedIn, and you can see my profile and that all these things. If I wasn't putting energy into that, we wouldn't be talking about it. But here we are talking about it today. So there's this sense of like, I took the step and I'm taking the steps and things are happening. That makes me, and probably most entrepreneurs, probably the most excited because you're watching something happen that you had a part in. I think that's what I like about it the most.
It sounds like it's created a lot of discipline for you in all aspects of your life. Do you think the athleticism from an early age has created the discipline?
I think so. I mean, you have to, as a triathlete or as any athlete, or even if just you're, just somebody who enjoys working out, if you're gonna be good at it, you have to put a certain amount of effort into it. And I don't feel like if I'm training a client or I'm in a new store talking about my bar, I feel like, there is a dedication and a focus you have to have and a drive to do that day in and day out that doesn't feel like work, or you wouldn't do it, right? If it feels hard, sometimes you don't want to do it, but when you're seeing the results day in and day out, you know that as an athlete, right? Like your body's responding. So people are responding to eating my bars. I'm in new stores. Obviously, no matter how that happens, there's some sort of dedication and focus that you have to make that happen on a daily basis and not be burned out, right?
You've mentioned your dad and your mom and your 99-year-old grandmother, which is incredible. And it seems that they were very important role models in your life. Can you think of some life lessons from them that have resonated with you?
Sure. I mean, I think my grandmother, she used to wake me up at like when I was growing up and way too young, at like 5:30 in the morning. We're walking and we're walking out, not giving me a choice, right? Like we're doing this. Um, and my dad too. It's like you're gonna feel good when it's done. You might not love it to get started, but when it's done, you're gonna feel good. And I think that's a really good life lesson. Like sometimes you don't maybe want to do, say, like my daughter, like trying to get her to read a book or do something different. But then when she gets into it and she says, "Oh, I love this book," right? It's like when you finish a run, I'm done. I finished it. You got through it. And then you feel so much better for the rest of your day. You're not thinking about it. You got your workout done, or just even if you made a healthier choice eating, right? So these are, I think, life lessons that my grandmother was always about pushing and making sure we were healthy. Probably not like all grandmothers, right? I mean, I feel like a lot of grandmothers are more like, just eat this. Where my grandmother was like, you're going to go to the garden and get some lettuce. We're going to have a salad. I mean, she was definitely more on the healthier side. In fact, she wasn't vegan, but later in life, when I was really starting out to be vegan, I let her try some non-dairy creamer, and then she went to her little grocery store in Western Pennsylvania, and she told them, "You have to get this in, or I will not shop here again." Like she was like, "This is what's going to happen," and they did it for her. So she was very determined, and maybe that's part of the life lesson that she handed down to me is like determination is a definite skill set and a definite uh, path that if you're going to do something, you got to like stay on the path. Maybe that's probably one of her life lessons. And my dad too.
That sounds wonderful. And aside from your family role models, do you have any other mentors or heroes over the course of your amazing career?
I don't know if you're familiar with Rich Roll. I'm sure you are. But Rich Roll is a big sort of mentor for me. I don't know him personally. I'm hoping to meet him one day, but I just love his story and just I've taken a lot from him as far as like you can do anything. He went from you know uh, from one person basically and recreated himself into this vegan athlete. And although I didn't take the same path, I feel like there's a lot of lessons that you can take from that, right? Like he's a firm believer in like it's just never too late. You can always start, a side hustle. You can always start your dream no matter what age you are. And I kind of feel like that's what speaks to me the most, is like, I feel like that even if you have like a hiccup in all this, which I've had many, before it would leave me, curl up in a ball crying or just distraught. Now I'm just like, oh, okay, it's a speed bump. I'll figure it out. I don't let it like affect me. I feel like it just, all right. And then how do we get through it? I don't worry about it anymore. And maybe that's a really good lesson that he's instilled in the people that do follow him. So I feel like he's that. And then also Robert Cheek. Do you know Robert Cheek? He's veganbodybuilding.com. He's been really inspirational too. Just knowing that you're on the right path, because some people still view veganism as an ugly word, and I don't understand that, because it's such a great way to live, healthy and so wonderful. And the world of vegan, when I first started, was nothing like it is today. And I just feel proud to be a part of it from all these years and seeing where it's going. It's kind of exciting, because I was in it way before anybody else was. How long have you been vegan?
I've been vegetarian for many, many years, and I transitioned to vegan when I first started as general counsel for the SPCA. And I was told a story about a chicken processing plant, which I will not share, which was enough in an instant to turn me off of that whole world. And what's interesting when you were telling the story about your grandmother and her healthy both lifestyle and diet, is I, on my paternal side, have Hungarian grandparents who unfortunately have passed away, but it was very meat heavy. So I didn't have that background initially to have that healthier plant-based lifestyle. And I found that out all on my own and through my own experiences. What I found really important, your discussion about your non-familial mentors, is what you said about perseverance. And I think it'll resonate with the career path intelligence listeners, because it's all about having second and third careers. And if you persevere at whatever age, you can continue on, whether it's a similar career or it's something entirely different. And we talked about transitioning from vegetarian to vegan. So for you, when did you do that transition to vegetarian and then to vegan?
Pretty young. I would say, I don't know exactly, but I would say probably around 18. I did like I'm sure you're familiar because everybody knows the Atkins diet. So I did that like one time for, I don't know, a couple of weeks. And I just I felt so sick after maybe the first couple days. I thought, this is awful. And I knew why eating meat was I just grew up pretty vegetarian. And after that, I just realized, I'm like, that is definitely not the path that I want to choose. But I hadn't given up dairy completely. And then when I started getting into competitive triathlons, I was working with a coach, and we would always be running together and discussing diet and nutrition. And he was vegan, and he knew I was vegetarian. And he goes, well, what's your complaint about running? Or training? And I said, I'm always congested. And he said, because you're probably lactose intolerant, like most Americans are. And he says, 3 days, I want you off of dairy. And I was like, 3 days? What am I going to find out in 3 days? And in 3 days, I felt like just this. I mean, I didn't eat much dairy at all anyway. But, if you don't know and you have to check every label and it's in food hidden, I felt so good. And it was just a very light bulb moment for me. I was like, okay. So it was probably around the age 20, 22, maybe. So that's when I started to really study nutrition. That's when I got certified as a sports nutrition consultant. Then I got certified in as a regular nutrition consultant too, so I could not only work with athletes, but I could work with. And once you understand it and you study it, then it's like it's like a light bulb moment. It's like you don't want to, you can't go back. You feel, I mean, I feel so good all the time that I want other people to feel that way too. So yeah, it's been a while.
That's a great segue into my next question, and I'm sure you hear this all the time from vegetarians, which is, I can't make that transition. It's too tough to transition from vegetarian to completely plant-based. Given your nutrition background, what advice would you have for them to say it's really not that difficult to make that diet modification?
I think I answer this question like every day. So I always tell, especially people who are trying to transition and maybe they're like, I don't want to spend all my time in the kitchen cooking. And I said, whatever you eat that's not vegan, they make a vegan version of it. Now, I don't want everybody just eating Impossible or Beyond Meat burgers 24/7. I mean, that's not healthy either to eat it all the time. But this is a great way to transition. And I think it's a great option for people who are trying to transition. I mean, they have vegan tuna now, vegan salmon, vegan shrimp. So if you really are a person who likes to live and eat like that all the time, and maybe not eat beans and rice and get into tofu and all that stuff, like if you want something that's, not like something you're used to, there's so many ways to um, see substitute now that you didn't have to search for anymore. It's so easy. So that's what I always tell people. If you're transitioning, don't worry about it. Just go buy the vegan version of it. You probably will love it. I mean, most people don't know but you can barely know the difference.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're absolutely right. Maybe 20 years ago, it was trickier to tell people there's so much out there, but with companies like Impossible Burger and Beyond Meat, it replicates the taste if that's what someone is looking for, and it's much easier to make that transition. And in terms of transition, your successful energy bar was created from your grandmother's secret recipe. How were you able to modify a cookie recipe to an energy bar?
Yeah, not on purpose. She had given me a cookie recipe that was really easy to make. It was like maybe 7 ingredients, and it was like oats and chocolate chips, and there was some butter in it, and it was really easy to make. So when I lived in Los Angeles and was a trainer, I used to make them for clients. And that client said, listen, I love your cookies, but you're also my trainer, and I don't want to get fat. Because she loved them, so I always made them for her. She goes, why don't you make them healthier for me? And I said, yeah, I bet you I could do that. So at that time, I had taken out, I guess I took out the butter, and I want to say maybe replaced it with olive oil at the time. And maybe I had like a sugar substitute, and I think I played around with some different proteins to make it kind of balanced. And it worked. Now, it was a refrigerated product for all those years because I made it in my kitchen for 9 years. But then she started buying them, and then she told her friend, and then this friend she told, and it just snowballed. And next thing I know, I was selling them at the gyms I was training at, and it just happened. And then I worked with a food scientist for a few years because I have a background in nutrition, but I don't have a background in food science. So in order to make a product that's soy-free and dairy-free and gluten-free and wheat-free and GMO-free and all these things, that takes a lot of skill. So I worked with somebody for, I think, almost 5 years before we got it on the market, because it takes a lot to get a product on the market. So yeah, it happened by accident, but it turned into that for sure.
Why was it important to you that one of the elements of that energy bar be that's vegan? Because I'm sure that created more challenges for you in terms of getting that approved.
Well, because I was already vegan, for one, and I was already a competitive triathlete. So in order for me to be able to race and use my own product, because back then you had Power Bar, Cliff Bar, and I think that was it. So I didn't have any choices, right? So, and for me to eat a Cliff Bar before a race it was heavy on my stomach. Although I love Cliff Bar, I think it's a great product. For me, it was very, very heavy. So I knew it was important for me to have obviously something that I ate that other people who were lactose intolerant could eat too. I mean, that's the problem at a race. If you walk around at races now, there's a lot of options. But back when I started racing competitively, there was really nothing.
And I understand you became the first triathlete to have your own power energy bar, which is an amazing.
Yeah, at that time.
And so when
At
was
that time. So that was probably around 2005.
Mhm.
And then there's another triathlete who has a bar on the market now that's also vegan.
Well, I know that sports nutrition is a highly competitive field. How well has your product sold, and what have you attributed to be the reason for that success?
I think when I entered the market in like probably '04 and '05, the vegan was a very nobody even knew what it was. I heard a lot of what's vegan, you know? A lot of people weren't really understanding what it was. And again, back then there was not a lot of choices. So I think my success is sort of more now because everybody knows the word vegan and plant-based. These are words you hear on a daily basis. I mean, these are words that you can go to Burger King and get a Beyond Meat burger. This is not taboo anymore. So I think my success is quicker now. Back then it was maybe, a little bit slower, and I'm okay with that. I was okay with it then. I would rather have an organic growth than, that's something that wasn't, just that I could spend money on to get my product necessarily more promotion. I love still working with the athletes that I work with and using Instagram and Facebook and people that are reaching out who are first time vegans, newly vegan, first time as a vegan athlete that want to learn more about a product that they can feel safe with and that they know that if they're going to train with it, that it'll give them something that won't upset their stomach. So I think these last few years have really given me the growth that I was always hoping for because everybody finally caught up to me.
You've mentioned quite rightly that there has been this shift from, say, 15 years ago when plant-based and vegan were unknown words and had more of a taboo associated with them. As a trainer, what changes have you witnessed with your clients being more health conscious, both from a lifestyle and diet perspective, if at all? Have you noticed any transitions in that time frame?
Yeah, I mean, one girl I've been working with for like 8 years who's lost close to 100 pounds, finally, I got her to understand that the dairy portion of this. She already eats well, but she's still on that high protein, low carb, mindset that so many of us are. And it makes no sense to me. But I think her hearing me talk about it for so long, and then finally she's hearing it more out in the world. And then she finally gave up dairy within the last 2 years, and she lost, I think in the last 2 years, she's down 65 pounds. So I think it was a big switch for her because not only was she hearing it from me every day, she's now also hearing it out in the marketplace, which, that information is definitely getting out there now, which rightfully so. It's about time. So yeah, I think dairy is a big portion of that.
Mm-hmm. And aside from healthy body image, how do changes in fitness from your perspective affect having a more positive attitude and outlook on life?
Endorphins, right? I mean, that's what I call the happy drug. It's my natural happy drug. It's like something I have to do every day, makes me feel kind of normal. So, yeah, I mean, I think I try to explain to people it should be part of your life. You brush your teeth every day. At some point you take a shower, you have to eat. Where's your workout? And I try to tell people, doesn't mean you have to work out for an hour, but go outside for 5 minutes, walk around the block, do something where you're connecting with the earth and with the energy of the world. Like you need that. Like we all need that, especially now when a lot of us are more indoors and, not able to do our normal thing. But I think it also gave us a chance to slow down. So I think having uh, a chance to meditate and do other things, which I think is more newer in the fitness, into my mantra of like what I tell my clients they need to do: connecting, getting outside, meditating. These are, different things that I think are more part of the whole picture now that are really important.
And how do you think staying fit and healthy is related to beauty?
I mean, your skin is your biggest organ. If you feed yourself crap, you're going to look not so great. I mean, that's one thing I get a lot of compliments on is my skin. And the first thing that everybody asks me is, what do you do? And my answer every time is, I'm vegan. That's what I do. I am vegan. And I work out and I drink lots of water and I live a healthy lifestyle. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy a glass of wine and that I like to, stay up late once in a while and, have fun. But it's just part of my everyday lifestyle. I think being vegan and not having dairy in your diet is a huge part of having a healthy skin and just feeling better.
What do you have to say to young women out there who aspire to be successful entrepreneurs like you?
To go for it. So don't worry about what your parents are telling you have to do. If you work hard enough at what you want to do, really want to do, and you put the work in, you will make your parents proud. You will make yourself proud, most importantly. But I know because I have a sister who's younger, and she's amazing. And I know my parents so badly want her to go in this direction. And I keep telling her, no, you're doing what you're doing what you want to do, and you're going to be a success. I mean, she's an astrobiologist. She's not, she's not shabby. She's not waiting tables and, I mean, she's brilliant. But I think the misconception of, my parents' age to younger kids now is you got to still do the work. No one's going to hand it to you. And I think that, that's the role that we play in our children, is like teaching that, because my parents certainly put a great work ethic into me. But I think if you are younger these days and are going to college and still trying to figure out what you want to do, find what it is that you really want to do and just start on that path. Figure out who does it and how they got there. And maybe you figure out a way to talk to that person or follow them on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, or TikTok, all these things, and figure out how they got there. I'm not talking about the celebrities. I'm talking about successful entrepreneurs who can make something happen because of their own hard work and resilience and being able to work hard at it. I mean, I think if my daughter, who's 9, says, I want to, be a rock climber, well, if she's going to be a rock climber, I'm going to help her to do everything she can to be that professional rock climber, right? But she's got to put the work in herself. I think that's the key, is if you're younger and you're still trying to figure it out, give yourself a chance to figure it out. Maybe take different courses in college, but you really got to work at it.
And for those students at whatever point in their career who have decided they want to pursue a plant-based career, what guidance do you have for them?
Oh, there's so many job opportunities now in these. I get on my on one of my feeds, I get all the plant-based jobs that come up, and they're jobs that come up all the time. It might not be your ideal job, but it's a way in. So maybe you're helping do some office work for a company like Beyond Meat, but you're in the company. And then you figure out how to talk to the people that are above you and how they got there, and then you climb the ladder. But just get yourself in that door. Even if maybe they're not even interviewing, right? But just go there and figure out, well, I guess right now in the pandemic it's harder. But there's so many opportunities with companies popping up all the time. I mean, you just put in vegan jobs and there's a lot of opportunity out there. And again, you might not be the CEO of that company, but you can get in on the ground floor and figure out, okay, at least I'm in. Now you figure out the path once you're in there. How do I get there? And you might have to put some time into it, but you're already in there.
Well, you've carved out an amazing path for yourself, and you're also a devoted mom. How do you manage to effectively balance that work life career?
It's hard, as I'm sure you know, as a mom yourself of three. I only have one, so it's hard. There's a lot more iPad time than I really truly like. Um, but I try to schedule all of that stuff while she's at camp or doing something. Um, and you have to get creative, right? You got to figure out a way to carve out, like if it's 2 hours a day of things that you have to get done, you just have to plan ahead because nighttime is family time. And I like to, spend time with her. And then when she falls asleep, then I'm usually back to work for another hour or two. But I think having the ability to do that and see that right now, especially with the pandemic, our lives are a lot more different as far as the setup of work hours. So if you can work like that, and a lot of my California stuff that I do is always when she's asleep. It's an hour or two of phone calls or Zoom calls, and you make it work. And I also make her a part of it. I mean, there's a lot of times she's with me. If I'm going to a new grocery store that's carrying my product, she'll come right along with me and put her mask on, and we'll talk to the customers. And it's I want her to see that it's something that I'm very passionate about, but that it's like I'm doing my own thing, and I want her to see how like it's not my hobby. It's like it's my career. So it's probably hard for her to understand some of it because she's only 9. But I think she gets it. She asks me questions, which is good. But yeah, I want her to see that, she can do anything. So the work balance is it's tricky, but most of the work is done Monday through Friday, so weekends are usually pretty free. So that's good.
Well, that's a wonderful message, and I'm sure your daughter is extremely proud of you and loves doing those sorts of activities with you. My family, including my 3 elementary age kids, are proud vegans, and the transition to a plant-based lifestyle, I understand, can be especially tricky for children. Our philosophy was to let them inform themselves and make an independent decision before they decided to go plant-based. How have you approached the situation with your daughter?
It's been a really challenging one for me because my husband is not vegan. And although he would joke that if he wants to eat Monday through Friday, he's vegan because I cook every night. But she's half she's half him, so I have to respect that he doesn't always choose vegan. Although I would say he's 80% vegan, so he's pretty good about being vegan. But I definitely notice that he pushes a little bit against me, which makes her push against me a little bit. So there is like, she goes to a birthday party and they have pizza, I know that she eats it with regular cheese. but she always complains that she has a stomach ache. So I'm trying to get her to understand without me telling her, you have a stomach ache because you ate dairy, not because you ate too much. Like, she has a stomach ache every time she eats it. So I'm just trying to take a step back and not be push it on her, because I don't want her to push back. And this is right now it is a really tough time, because I really would like her to be vegan, and it's harder. But I think when she goes back to school, because there's a lot of kids in her school that are vegan or vegetarian, I think it might be better. But yeah, it's really hard. It's definitely a struggle, like internally for me, and definitely like a family topic that is not easily discussed.
Well, my husband was the last holdout of our family, so you never know what'll end up happening with that situation.
Yeah, I'm hopeful.
But it's an interesting dynamic with kids. I remember my son, who was the first, because he's older than my daughters, to transition. One day he looked down at his plate and all of a sudden realized that this is an animal. And for him, that was really the turning point. And I went to the pediatrician to talk about this, because as you can probably appreciate, there are all these messages saying kids can't be healthy and be vegan. And so his response was, once a child articulates that they don't want to eat meat because they realize it's an animal, there's no way to go back. And for
Right.
my son, there wasn't. And it's certainly a lifestyle that can be very healthy for kids. And
Oh
so
yeah.
that's what we went with. And then my daughters, and then my husband followed shortly thereafter. So getting back to your career, what's your proudest moment overall, whether it's related to your athleticism, your training, being an entrepreneur? There's so many options, so you might not be able to select just one.
I mean, I think I get a lot of those little moments. Like, I mean, they happen daily, where like I'll be in a conversation with somebody at some point in the day who I've never met before, and I tell them about the bar, and I say, "Oh, why don't you just try it?" And then they taste it, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is so good!" And like hearing that to me makes me feel like I made that. Like I created that on my stovetop. And whether I stop here and this is my whole story, and I stop here, like this is it, how many people can say that they created a cookie on their stove, which is now in stores and packaged? It's a good story, and I'm really proud of it. Um, and I get reminded of it a lot. You know, I get those messages on Instagram. Oh my God, I just had your bar for the first time. It's so good. Why haven't I had it yet? You know, oh, I just found it in this store. And those little just messages make me feel really, really proud all the time. So maybe that's what fuels my entrepreneurial passion, right? Like you get that instant feedback, and it's going with me all the time. I just was out to lunch with a girlfriend today, and we were in a restaurant we never been to, and I saw that they had vegan and non-vegan, and I saw they had like a little section, and I always have bars on me, so I talked to the owner of the restaurant, and now she's going to carry the bars. I mean, it happens every day. So maybe the inspiration is that I get that instant feedback from people about something that tastes good, but it's also good for you. So that's, that makes me proud.
Well, it's a fabulous story, and you should be so proud. And I look forward to trying your bar.
Yes.
I'm not an athlete, but I still would love to try it. How would I, or anyone who's not familiar with your bar, be able to try it out?
On our website, which is try3bar.com, which is TRI, like triathlon, TRI, the number 3BAR.com. And they like, you can go on there now, and I think I have it set up where, because if you don't want to commit to say even just 6 bars, you just want to try them. Right now we have 2 flavors. I'm coming out with my 3rd flavor. So right now we have Cocoa Crunch, which is dark chocolate, and peanut butter, which was the original flavor. So I always this is the one I love so much. But then there's Tropical Try, which is almond butter, dark chocolate, and coconut, which is kind of like an Almond Joy candy bar, but healthy. So these are the two flavors. So right now you can go online and you can try both of them for free. You just pay for the shipping, and then you figure out which one you like, and then you can, if you want to order more. I have a third flavor coming out, which is going to be vanilla, sea salt, and caramel with cacao nibs. So we're going to add some superfood in there and just go a little bit of a different flavor profile. So that's coming out. And then I also have a vegan cheese popcorn coming out. So that'll be available soon. So I'm definitely adding more and more products all the time. But yeah, for right now, you can try them. I know I need to get you some. I wanted to get you some before the interview, but we'll definitely get you some.
Oh, I'd love to try them. Those flavors
Yeah.
are amazing.
Yeah, you don't have to, that's the thing, is like I have a lot of people who don't even work out who eat them because they just keep them in their car, they throw them in their purse. You're running around, especially when you have kids. Our lives are busy, even though we're on lockdown for part of our lives, and right now it's very different and we're home more. Still got to have something around just to hold you over, or in between meals, or first thing in the morning with a cup of coffee before you go to bed. I mean, that's kind of where they're always in my life. Like I always keep one by the bed because a lot of times I'll work at bed and then it's 11 o'clock and I'm still hungry. So yeah.
I think that's an important point, especially with COVID, when maybe the ability to go grocery shopping or have a balanced diet is challenging. So to be able to
Sure.
have that, it would be great.
Yeah, and they're balanced and healthy and they taste good.
A final question I have for you is, what's a question that I haven't asked you that you wish I had asked you, and how would you answer that question?
The question I get every day, and I'm sure you probably get it too, is, and I hate this question, but I get it asked so much. So now I'm kind of like, please ask it. So I get this question every day is, where do I get my protein from? And I don't know if people ask you this, and it makes me crazy that people still ask it, but I get it because we are so protein crazed in the United States. I don't understand it. I tell people the same thing. I get my protein where your animals get their protein. I just take the middleman out.
Right. Exactly.
I don't eat anything with boobs or a face. I eat the same thing that a horse would eat, or that cow that you're eating. I get my protein from those same sources. I just don't have the middleman. And I always tell people, look at a horse's body, look at a gorilla's body, elephant. These are beautiful, strong animals, and they're all vegan. So the myth that you need meat to be muscular is just insane. People are like, oh, you must eat beans all day long. I'm like, no, not at all. I just eat what I want to eat. I just eat food.
Well, it's interesting. I took a nutrition course and it was taught by a dietitian, and she said that she's not a vegan or a vegetarian, but she can say without question that the vegan diet is the healthiest diet in the world, provided that you don't just eat soda and corn chips all day. So it's just a matter of eating the right thing, but exactly what you're saying, you take out the middleman, you go directly to what they're consuming and eat it yourselves. And the same response that I have, slightly different, is I don't eat anything with a face or a mother. So I guess that's the same sentiment.
Yes.
This has been such an informative and inspiring discussion, Erin. I really appreciate your time and your insight and the positive example that you provide, not just for your daughter, but for athletes and others alike.
Thank you. I love to talk about being vegan and entrepreneurship. That's obviously my favorite things to talk about. So thank you for allowing me a platform to also speak more about my product and about myself. And it was lovely. Thank you. The questions were great.